Billionaire real estate mogul and newspaper titan Mort Zuckerman out with a thought-provoking editorial in today's Wall Street Journal on why he thinks the nation is still in the grips of the Great Recession. How do we spur job growth and restore confidence among out-of-work Americans? And what does he make of President Obama going after the big banks? Let's talk about that first on CNBC with Mort Zuckerman. It's good to see you again, Mort. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to talk to you about, the unemployment situation in just a moment, which, as you say, is now a catastrophe. But let's start with the newsmaking of yesterday that continues today, with the president proposing some sharp restrictions and basically a breakup of many of the larger banks. What do you make of that proposal? Is it appropriate or not?
Well, I think the rationale for it, which is, Paul Volcker speaks of very often, is that if they're going to use, in a sense, federally insured deposits as the foundation, financial foundation for this kind of trading, that is not intended to be what the original guarantees of deposits, federally insured deposits, is supposed to be. But the way to cure that, in my judgment, is, as your preceding guest suggested, is to establish the right kind of equity requirements for it rather than taking them out of the business altogether. So I think it is going about it the wrong way, and once again, in my judgment, to an extent, it is a substitution of politics for policy. Mm-hmm. It's a very easy thing to do. It's a very a good way to stoke up populist anger at the quote-unquote the banks and the financial world and Wall Street, as if they are the cause of all of this. Now, they've made their own set of mistakes, but nothing compared to the mistakes that the government made with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac kicking off the housing boom that started this whole rock rolling down the hill. So I think they ought to be very, very cautious about making those kinds of proposals.
Right. Mr. Zuckerman, it's Dennis Neal. I was talking to a few Wall Street folks, and it turns out there already are laws on the books that ban banks from using consumer deposits to fund risky bets elsewhere. They're separate houses. And furthermore, some academic studies lately have shown that something like 98% of all losses were because of bad loan practices and too loose standards, not because of the proprietary trading. One unintended consequence, Obama likes green energy. Well, J.P. Morgan is one of the largest owners of wind farms in this entire country, and it won't be allowed to own them under the rules proposed by the Obama administration. What are we doing here?
Well, I don't know what we're doing here, to be honest with you. I literally do not understand any of the major policies of this administration, which I have to say I initially supported. I mean, I thought their stimulus program to get the economy back on track, to turn it over to Congress, is like just asking for exactly what we got, which is a program that feathers the nest and earmarks for so many of the congressional districts without giving anywhere near the amount of stimulus the economy needed. A health care program which is totally politically corrupt. And now we have this kind of playing games with the financial system, which it seems to me are basically motivated by politics and not by policy.
Mort, is this presidency to a certain extent unraveling? I mean, we have dissension apparently. We hear in the ranks of the economic team. We hear Mr. Bernanke now may have more difficulty than expected getting reconfirmed. Policies have changed. You just outlined it perfectly. Is the president's agenda unraveling? Is his presidency unraveling?
I think that his agenda has been unsuccessful. The presidency is not unraveling totally. There are 3 years to go, and all kinds of good things can happen to a president if he changes course. Now, I will say this. He has dropped in his popularity and support more in the first year than any other president since they've been measuring public opinion polls and public popularity ratings. And I think the Democrats are going to have a terrible time in this forthcoming election. You saw what happened in Massachusetts, in New Jersey, in Virginia. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is just going to be a landslide. And why? It is the Democrats that have revived the Republican Party. And I just do not understand. This presidency comes from a wing of the Democratic Party, it seems to me, that is impossible to govern. You have to govern from the center in this country, and that is not what's been going on.
And so, Mr. Zuckerman, what would you advise the Obama administration do now?
Well, at least as far as the economy is concerned, there are no emergency measures that are going to turn it around. What you have to do, at least as I see it, is to restore a greater degree of long-run confidence in what we can accomplish. And in this article, which I wrote for the Wall Street Journal, I recommended at least two things. One is, and I've done this before, I've spoken about it before, I know the administration actually approves of this, is to set up a national infrastructure bank which will take the infrastructure spending out of the whole sort of corruption of earmarks and special benefits for members of Congress in their individual districts, the so-called bridges to nowhere, or an airport for an individual congressman, and really make it into a major long-term program. There are ways of doing it that would dramatically increase, and this is not welfare. This is investment in the future of this country.
So Mort, are you withdrawing your support from President Obama? Will you not vote for him for re-election? Will you not give money to his campaign?
I think it is too early to tell at this stage of the game.
All right, thanks a lot.